welcome to the Interstate Mets Report with your hosts, Nelson and Chris.
What is up, all you beautiful people? It's been a while since our last Interstate Mets Report episode. We have come back and returned from the inevitable slow off season that is the Mets sitting at home watching playoff baseball as well as we are too. So, how you doing, Nelson? It's been a while, man. It's good to catch up with you. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, it's been a minute. I'm good. Just trying to will this freaking off season to start already. Like I'm really hoping that I don't even care who wins, just sweep it so we can move on and get to the good stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna be. I don't even know how I feel about it. Like, I have no motivation to watch a Rangers D-backs World Series, but I'll probably inevitably watch some of it anyways. But before we get into all of that, make sure you hit that thumbs up, comment, all that good stuff. Whether you're watching live, going to be watching live, or watching the rerun, comment your thoughts and opinions on anything we're talking about, and you know where to find us on X at Interstate Mets. Um, we'll go through some of our banners. You know where to find us individually later, but we're just gonna get right into the meat of the topics here. Let's talk about some Craig Counsell news. The Mets officially had received permission to interview Craig Counsell here coming up. I think that was approved by the Brewers in yours and I's discussion. Quite frankly, I've been out of the loop on a lot of Mets talk. Um, I've been focusing my attention on the Knicks. I've been focusing my attention on the Rangers, the Giants. So I'm a little bit not caught up to speed just yet, but hopefully I can learn a thing or two here in terms of what's been going on. And like Nelson said, we just hope this World Series goes by really quickly because at that point, the Mets can inevitably make a move at manager and start filling out the front office and coaching staff before obviously the winter meetings start to approach us here. So what is your take on this? I know that there's conflicting reports out there. I've seen some news about Stearns potentially wanting a first-time head coach, or I say head coach. I'm in football talk now, manager. But I don't know. I don't necessarily understand that's 100% true. I think it's just hearsay. So what's your take on it? I mean, obviously the Mets are going to interview Craig Counsell. His familiarity with Stearns is inevitable. But what is your take on, the whole first-year manager versus an established veteran manager like Craig Counsell to lead this Mets team moving forward?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with hiring a first time manager. I think my favorite candidate is Joe Espada, who would be a first time manager. Um, it doesn't really matter to me. I just want someone that's a little younger, a little like more in tune with today's game, um, that can adjust to the rule changes that are already happened, and there's more to come. Like, let's not fool ourselves. Rob Manfred is changing the game year to year, and there's going to be more rule changes, and there's going to be different things to adapt to. Whether that be automated strike zone or automated umpires or whatever the hell we're doing, but things are going to keep changing, and we need someone at the helm that's going to be able to adapt with that. Um, as far as interviewing Counsell, I think it's interesting. I mean, obviously he has to interview. Like, you're not just going to give him the job, but it's funny that Stearns is interviewing him when he's worked with him for the last
Yeah.
however many years. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what much is there to say other than, I mean, maybe, I guess the dynamics would be a little different on a different club, and they'd have to discuss those things and discuss whether or not he actually wants to move to New York. He's a small town guy. Um, there's been a lot of talks that he wants to set the manager market, like, money wise. So again, like, it's always people are always trying to get money from the Mets, especially now with
Exactly.
Cohen at the helm. It's like everybody knows they can ask for the moon. So we'll see how that works out. I don't know, man. I don't think that's. I know a lot of people think it's just a sure thing. I just don't see it that way. I feel like there might. I don't know if there's anything necessarily to Counsell wants to hire a first-time manager, but I mean, not Counsell. Stearns wants to hire a first-time manager, but I think there is something to the fact that he may just want to hire a new manager. This is his first opportunity to hire someone. He inherited Counsell, so this would be his first time like actually getting to hire his own manager. To waste, I don't want to say waste it, but to spend it on just hiring the guy that you've been working with. I mean, yeah, there's familiarity there, but I would think maybe a new job, you want to go a new route, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We got a couple people tapping in. I love the new name change. We got Yuki Matsui. Hey, Nelson and Chris, how are you doing? Appreciate you tapping in once more. We know who you are. Stevie
I'm
Mac
not gonna lie,
23.
I
What's
don't
up,
know who
dudes?
Yuki Matsui
No, we
is.
don't know we don't know who they are, but we know that they are Yoshinobu Yamamoto and all the rest of the other name changes, which is great that they're continuing to tap in with us. I love it. And then we got Stevie Mac always tapping in. I love it. Appreciate you watching, Stevie. So I know you mentioned Espada, and that's where I kind of wanted to go because like everyone knows about Counsell. Everyone knows Counsell's going to interview. Everyone knows Counsell is a potential target, right? With the familiarity with Stearns. You mentioned a couple of names, and I've been keeping up with your tweets on X because you just regularly name drop potential managerial candidates and give a little bit of context, and I love it. I know Espada. So my question is, I have two questions, a two-part. This is going to be mostly like an interview kind of episode because, like, honestly, I'm not in touch with any of these managers. I know Don Kelly pretty much from the Pirates organization, but other than that, I'm still kind of like in the dark of these potential first-time managers. Other than your classic like Bob Melvin's, Gabe Kapler's on the market. So Espada. I heard Dusty Baker's potentially retiring. If not, he's already given the notice to retire. Is Espada next in line in Houston from what you've been hearing, if there has been any reports on that? And two, if that is the case and he's inevitably going to be the Houston Astros' next manager, obviously they fell a little short to the Texas Rangers this year. Who then immediately becomes a front runner outside of Counsell and Espada? Because I think between the conversation that we've been having on the last couple of Interstate Mets reports, even in what we've done on the Roundtable podcast with Talking Mets with Rob, like we've basically said Counsell and then like Espada is like 1A, 1B in terms of realisticness for our liking for the manager. So is Espada less likely now with Dusty retiring? And who would be your, I guess, secondary option between or that's not Counsell and Espada? I wanna know that.
Yeah, I mean, one would assume it makes the most sense that Espada would just fill in Dusty's role. He's been the bench coach forever. They've kind of been grooming him there. Um, but you never know. Like, I don't think I, they're probably gonna. I would think at least interview a couple other people just to see. Maybe they find somebody else that they like better. I mean, it's weird with these things. Like, I don't think anybody thought Bob Melvin was gonna jump ship and go to the Giants like from the Padres. So, like
Is
weird
that
thing.
official? Did that happen?
Yeah, that officially happened. He had the press conference and everything. Um,
Wow.
so you never know with these manager things. Like stuff comes up out of nowhere. Maybe a spot is like, screw you guys. I've been waiting forever. Like I don't now it's on my terms and I don't want to stay here. I want to go somewhere else. I don't know. Um,
Yep.
maybe that's just wishful thinking on my part because I'd really like him to be the manager. But if he's not, I mean, there's been so many names. I went through a ton of them. Obviously, a lot of the names I pulled from like the Vegas odds and whatnot. I think
Yeah.
um who else was up there with the odds? I mean, Chavez and Beltran, I guess if you believe the reports are out because the story was that the Mets were going to go outside of the organization
Really?
for a manager. Walt Weiss was like the next guy odds wise. He's coach on the Braves. I believe he's the bench coach. Um, the next guy was Mark DeRosa. Gabe Kapler. Did Gabe Kapler get hired somewhere? I don't think he did.
Not sure.
He was interviewing for the Boston like front office gig, but that went to somebody else. That was an interesting
Yeah.
bit. Will
What about
Venable, Will
Stephen
Venable,
Vogt
Stephen Vogt got hired, I believe.
by Guardians?
Or yeah, he was either high. I don't know if that's official. I know he was like their front runner. So um I'd have to look at that because I haven't been like 100% tuned in on that. But I think I've read he was hired.
Right.
Will
Okay.
Venable declined to interview, I guess. Joe Madden, I just think not happening. Um, then the rest of the names are just kind of wild cards. Mark DeRosa's name was on there. A
Mm,
name that I popped up, I think last week, was Mark Budzinski, first base coach with the Blue Jays. I guess the Mets
yeah.
were gonna hire or not hire him, gonna interview him. He's the only guy other than Counsell that I've seen that the Mets were even thinking of interviewing. Um, Not my preference offhand. I like Don Kelly from the Pirates for multiple reasons. I like his background. I like that utility role background. He's a guy that had to know to be able to play every single position on the field. You have to be knowledgeable.
Right.
You and he worked briefly with the Astros organization. I like anybody that call me crazy, but I like anybody that's worked in that organization just because
Yeah.
they have a history of winning. They know how to win. I like guys with that background. Um, so I Don Kelly's a guy I like. He's a local guy too. He's only like I think he was born like an hour away from where I live right now, so that's kind of cool. Um, yeah, I like him. He's a younger guy. He would probably be my next choice outside of Espada and Council.
Okay.
Um, DeRosa, I go back and forth on DeRosa. Like he didn't do anything crazy when he managed the WBC team. Some people, I guess, weren't that impressed, but I mean, he did finish second, and Japan's a juggernaut, so it's not nothing to sneeze at. He knows his stuff. Like you see him on MLB Network and whatever. He seems pretty knowledgeable. Um, I don't know. It's so hard because the Mets have been very quiet about everything. Like we don't
Yep.
even know at this point. It seems almost like we're not hiring a GM. We like, at least haven't heard anything um as far as what they're doing with that. So I don't know. It's just a crapshoot at this point as to what's going on. I just hope it happens. Whatever happens, happens sooner than later.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I like Mark DeRosa. I know that it's a little bit more of an experimental hire if it were to happen. Don Kelly also I do like. Probably that would be my choice as well. Just not to copy or anything, but I have researched a little bit of his background. Like you said, the utilities sort of background there just makes him probably infinitely knowledgeable in multiple categories, which is what you want as a manager leading your team. But Mark DeRosa, man, I always love. I get amped up when it's baseball season. I go Mets win, and Mark DeRosa is just like high flying. He's like the Kyle Brandt on NFL Network of MLB Network. So Mark DeRosa definitely is a high energy guy, younger guy too. Obviously, like Will Venable, Stephen Vogt, obviously had a long tenure in the major leagues and former players. So I know that that's like sort of like the move nowadays is just hiring a bunch of former players, which is great and all. But like you said, to follow that up and piggyback on that, the Mets, like historically, ever since Steve Cohen took over, they've been historically quiet on everything. Like hires, well, Stearns was kind of like the one outlier of that because everyone knew that connection was there for years. But like, especially in the trade market, when the Mets just made unexpected trade moves, those were never ever leaked out. Um, and usually we do get sort of that leakage where there's a bunch of reports and Heyman throws a report out there a couple hours before it happens. But the Mets, I mean, they're doing a good job in terms of having a poker face in terms of the trades and signings. So we got JNY Sports in the house. What up, man? How are you? Appreciate you tuning in. We got some discussion here about Tommy Pham and the Mets payroll. Yuki Matsui wants a prediction. Mets payroll before opening day 2024 above or below 400 mil. What do you think, Nelson?
I honestly have no clue, man. Like I said, everything's been so hush hush with everything with the Mets. Obviously, we haven't gotten into free agency yet, but
Yep.
there really is no sense of what Stearns is going to do. Like, there's obviously we're tied to Ohtani, we're tied to Yamamoto,
Yep.
but there's been whispers that we want to rein back the spending. There's also whispers on the other hand that Steve Cohen is going to go all in on 2024. Like, so it's just like so up in the air. I could see it going either way. I still think we're going to be heavily involved in the trade market. I really believe that. Um, as far as the free agents, I don't know. I really, obviously, Yamamoto is my number one guy. I want that to happen like really bad. Ohtani
Yep.
would be amazing. Like if we got them both, like regardless of what else we do in the offseason, like that's pretty good. Like obviously we're gonna need to do more, but getting those two guys would be like huge. So I don't know, man. It's interesting. There's so many guys that could be available. You don't know what's going on with the Padres. The White Sox are up in the air. The Astros are in the mix to trade some guys just because they always have kind of moving parts. They're not one to like. They're not a team to just kind of keep things the same. Um, you get those random teams like the Pirates that could be wanting to trade pieces off because they're the Pirates and they're dumb. The Guardians don't like to spend money, so who knows if they're looking to offload people. It's a lot of moving pieces that we don't know. We just don't know the answers to right now, but it'll be
Yep.
interesting. That's when again, that's why I want just things to get going and the World Series to be over.
Yeah, right now the Mets, I was just looking at it on Spotrac. Right
They're
now
already
the Mets is what was that?
said they're already ridiculously high, aren't they? It's like
Yeah, it's just under 245 active payroll as of right now. So it's already like up there. And
they're gonna clear
unfortunately, I just
they're gonna clear 300. I can't imagine they
yeah,
won't do that.
yeah. I'm gonna say with where the payroll's at right now, I'm gonna go above 400. Um,
Wow, are you above
but
4?
yeah, I think so. I think that what the whispers that we heard from Max Scherzer and all those reports were bogus. I really do think that. Um, and I can see it, especially if we'll talk about Ohtani here next, especially if that, big fish is gonna land in the pond of Queens, then I mean, you gotta imagine that it's gonna be close.
Yeah, and they're
So
already talking about Yamamoto looking for more than 200 mil himself. So, I mean,
yeah.
if we do
So
sign him, that's a huge chunk of money alone. I don't know. It's gonna be
yeah.
crazy. This offseason is gonna be nuts, man.
It is, and that's why I'm excited to do this content moving forward. Like, I know it's been, like, really slow, but I appreciate everybody rocking with us that's watching. I know we got 6 people in the chat here watching, and I appreciate you rocking with us. We know it's slow season, but as soon as it gets picked up, we'll be right here breaking the news and hopefully celebrating in terms of some signings and some trades. But
Yeah.
I think it's gonna go to answer your
I see
question.
myself doing like all night like live streams, like when there's like a
Yeah.
hot rumor. Like I could totally see that happening.
When the stove is hot, we're just gonna put up an impromptu, and we're just gonna go live on Interstate besides our usual Tuesday, Friday. So I'm ready to commit to that too. To answer the question in short, yes, I do think that above the payroll is gonna be above 400 million. I was just like I said, I was just looking at the active payroll right now as of October 27th, just under 245 million. Not to put a damper in you guys' Fridays, but 8 million of that is James McCann's rolled over salary, so he is still getting paid by the New York Mets in 2024.
At least
So,
we're not paying Cano.
but
At
that
least we're not paying Cano.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I forgot. I'm not gonna pull it back up, but there was a couple of rollover salaries on there. But yeah, at least Cano's off the books. Here's another great comment section here in terms of a little discourse about Mr. Tommy Pham, who's now in the World Series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Do you guys see the comments Tommy Pham dropped about the Mets difference or about the difference between the D-backs and the Mets? I think I did. I think it was that the Mets didn't have that fighting spirit to will them to where the D-backs are right now, the same fighting spirit that the D-backs have.
Guess what?
Tommy Pham has been
Losing teams don't have fighting spirit. It's just
breaking
I mean,
news, right? Exactly. Thanks, Tommy Pham. Thanks for saying something we already probably knew. We've been watching this team. We watched that team enough to know that they didn't have any fighting spirit. So thank you for breaking the breaking news, Tommy Pham. But no, I mean, I agree. It's definitely true. I don't know why he's being so vocal about it, but I don't really care, to be honest with you. Like, that doesn't hurt my feelings at all. So,
yeah, I don't
um,
understand why it's news because it's the Mets. It's always the Mets. For some reason, the freaking Mets are always in the news. We have nothing to do with the World Series, yet we're in the freaking news before Game 1. We had nothing to do with that fucking Phillies series, and they were like saying "F the Mets" before they after they won against the
right.
Braves. So it's like I don't even know why it comes up, and then we get yelled at when we kind of enjoy seeing a team fail or lose. Well, yeah, because they don't keep our names out their mouths, so we're gonna take some enjoyment out of
Shots.
watching them lose. So it is what it
Yeah,
is.
we're gonna take some shots when shots are due, and that Phillies downfall and the Braves downfall definitely got me hyped. So that's 100% accurate. Um, I just can't believe the D-backs came back in that series. I guess we'll talk about it here in a second when we get to that, but that was beautiful to watch. JNY Sports says he loves the honesty from Pham. The guy has heart. I agree. He was the Mets' best player. I said it back then on Interstate and whatever else Mets content that we did. Said it back then. Say it now. For a period of time, Pete Alonso wasn't carrying his team. Nobody on the Mets' starting lineup was carrying his team outside of Tommy Pham because he was the guy that was just absolutely lights out and carrying the Mets on his back. So, but that being said, I don't see him coming back just because of these comments. I think he burned that bridge, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But I
he's
would like
doing
to see him
a lot
back.
of
I
talking.
agree. You don't see him coming back, do you?
Not, I mean, he's doing so much talking that I don't know that it's gonna go over well with
Yeah.
bringing him back. But I guess you never know. But I don't see it.
Yeah, I agree. Jay says that we're living rent free in a lot of MLB teams' heads. I agree. That's classic New York right there for you. And Stevie says he actually loves that the Mets are being dead silent with everything for once. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I think that's a great move. That's a great tactic. Completely fine by me. Fans and media don't need to know everything. So let's get into some Ohtani talk. Oh my goodness, John Heyman. These odds have been bouncing around for the last couple months. I know he dropped one back in August, late August. Now he has his newest odd favorites of landing Ohtani. And oh, shocker, the Texas Rangers, the AL
yeah. I
champs,
love how
are
they
apparently
randomly got
number one now.
thrown in there.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So you see the odds here. I mean, it is what it is. It's Heyman's odds. It don't really mean anything at the end of the day, but it's interesting to see. I mean, obviously he hears some rumblings around the league, but I wouldn't put too much stock into it. But what do you think of this list right here?
Well, I mean, the Dodgers have always been in the mix. That whenever anybody's talked about Ohtani free agency, it's been Dodgers, Mets, Dodgers, Mets. The Giants make sense. They're always looking to spend money. They struck out a lot last offseason. They missed on Correa. They missed on Aaron Judge. And they thought they had them both, I think, at one point. So they're
Yep.
going to look to spend money. I could see them being in it for sure. And Texas, again, that's another team that likes throwing their money around. Let's face it, though, the guy with the biggest pockets is Steve Cohen. So if he wants Ohtani, it's going to come down to whether or not Ohtani's willing to play on the East Coast and play for the Mets. That's all it is. I don't think there's a scenario where if Steve Cohen wants a player, he gets outbid for that player. And he just doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. He's going to put out the highest bid. It's just up to that player whether they want to actually come here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
Boston's
don't see.
Boston's kind of a little all over the place.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't see Boston happening. The LA and San Francisco could definitely be competitors.
Yeah. I don't know. Boston is always a weird one to me when it comes to Ohtani sweepstakes. I could see it happening, but like I said, I think really I don't want to say this and jinx the Mets, but if he comes to the East Coast, have a feeling it would have to be the New York Mets, to be honest with you, given with what you just said. But come on, like Heyman, you couldn't do a little bit better job in terms of not putting one of the teams in a World Series. Obviously, that's big spenders and your odds. Like, I don't see him going to Texas. Let's be real here. Like, I get it. They're big spenders, spent on Seager, spent on Simeon. I mean, they had a great draft, or they have great drafts now. They're also sort of a fuse between a younger team and a veteran team, and whereas the D-backs are a whole lot younger in all facets of the game. But it's like, come on, 6-1 tied with the Giants and Dodgers. There's no chance. There's no chance there. So Heyman doing a little bit of a reach. This is a little
I
reaching by
almost,
Heyman
if
there.
I had to switch up those odds, I'd probably put them down to like 10-1 where Boston is. Like I could see that being more
Yeah.
realistic. But the Giants and Dodgers, like I said, makes a ton of sense. The Mets being at 8-1 obviously makes sense, but Texas, he threw Texas up there because they're in the World Series and they spend money. I don't think that's realistic.
Yep, that'd be a nostalgic lefty hitter to re-enter the Giants ballpark. I mean, like with the whole Barry Bonds thing, that'd just be absolutely nuts. Just watching
Balls
Moonshot
landing in the
win.
Cubby Cove would be like
Exactly.
nonstop.
Exactly. What are you offering? This is Yuki's offer to Ohtani. This is his pitch, 400 for 10 years. After 3 years, there's a player opt out. Now, let's not forget that Ohtani also did just have surgery, or he's going to have surgery on his elbow, will not be pitching in 2024. So it changes the ball game a little bit, but I mean, I agree. Like at this juncture, I think that there's going to have to be some sort of opt out, and it's not going to be a team opt out because Ohtani is never going to take that. There has to be a player opt out because, I mean, well, listen. I don't know if you give him an opt out. Obviously, I think it's safe to say that you're probably going to offer him a little less AAV because there is flexibility there. But this is like I said, when the whole Ohtani injury dropped, I said this is going to be one of the most interesting contracts to sign and what he's going to accept because I can see him accepting a short-term deal, betting on himself, and then cashing the bag in 2 years later or something like that. But like then again, it's also kind of risky because at the end of the day, Otani's still not like he's not a young player, right? He's already in his 30s, if I'm not
No,
mistaken.
he has a pretty lengthy injury history, so
Exactly.
at the
So
very least, it looks like he might not be able to pitch very long. He might be able to keep hitting, but I
mhm.
don't know about the pitching. So that I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. It's gonna like does that scare teams off to the point where they're not offering as much, or do they just say screw it and bet on his the fact that he's a freak of nature and that he's still like one of the greatest players in baseball history already? Like I mean, but like you said, he could bet on himself and take a smaller year deal and try to go back in free agency. There's tons of options here.
Yep.
I think a long deal with an opt out is probably what makes the most sense. Give him the chance to get out in like 3 or 4 years or whatever. We see that a lot more lately with players. So I don't know, man. We'll see. I'd love to see him at the Met uniform.
I would too.
That would be
I know
fantastic.
you're I know you're a huge advocate of just getting the Japanese trio out there, Sengo, Yamamoto, Otani. That'd be great. So hopefully we can make that happen in Queens, or at least Stearns and Cohen can give us something to cheer about in the offseason. So, but at the end of the day, whatever happens this offseason, the Mets still have to take the field regardless of how the payroll shakes out. And they also have to win some games, get in the playoffs, and make a run. So at the end of the day, you can have as much of a super team as you want, that much high as a payroll, but you got to still take the field and have that heart, like Tommy Pham is talking about. So,
And what this World
um,
Series proves, again, as we always say, you just got to
mhm,
make it to the playoffs, man. It doesn't matter if you win the division. Doesn't matter if you're scraped by with 83 wins. Just make the show, and anything can happen.
yep, I agree with you. Tom says he wouldn't be too surprised to see the Giants go all in on Ohtani. Completely agree. I mean, we saw it with the Correa deal before. I'm sure they had an offer out to Aaron Judge as well. Just
Oh, they
obviously
were
took,
they were there on Arson Judge. I mean,
yeah.
what's his name reported it that it was a done deal. He was wrong, but
That's right. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have a mega offer out there to Ohtani as well. But at the end of the day, Steve Cohen has something to say about that, and he will perpetually. I mean, I don't think there's any way that Steve Cohen passes up on one of the biggest free agents on the market since he's took over this team. Like I just don't see that happening. So we'll see what happens, whether he wants to stay on the West Coast or not. 40 mil AAV for a hitter if you can't pitch anymore is an overpayment. I definitely agree. I could still see Ohtani transitioning to that bullpen kind of role, man. He's so versatile, and I understand that being in the bullpen takes like ultra discipline. I know we only see them for like 1 inning max or 1 or 2 innings max, but like, I mean, dude, I can just see it happening. I can see him offering his services in the bullpen if the whole rotation thing doesn't work out. So, I mean, we'll see. But I agree. I mean, 40 mil AAV, I still think it's worth it for Ohtani, but I agree with you. There are certain risks that you run in terms of um
It's
the scope.
definitely a risk.
Yeah. Let's see here. JNY, I think he was agreeing with the whole Giants point as well here. But yeah, I mean, you see it on the screen. These are John Heyman's odds. I mean, I don't think Texas is going to be in play. I think Boston is more in play for Ohtani than Texas is. So I don't know what John's doing over there, but he's got to check himself. But always good to see the Mets on the list, at least according to the experts. So um, let's talk a little bit about some player development hires. Now, I have no idea any names about player development. I have no idea about what player development, I mean, like where they're fitting into this organization moving forward. So, Nelson, if you can shed a little light upon myself and our viewers in terms of what's been going on in terms of player development, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, no, the Mets, according to John Morosi yesterday, the Mets have had discussions about hiring, and I'm going to probably butcher this name, Dan Kantrovitz, for a high level position overseeing the amateur scouting and player development department. Kantrovitz is currently hold on, I had it pulled up. Hold on a second. He is the vice president of scouting for the Cubs right now. The Cubs, if you look at their farm system, their rankings, they're number 1 in Fangraphs, number 2 in ESPN, number 4 on MLB Pipeline, and number 6 on Baseball America. So, I mean, if you could steal a guy from the Cubs that has had a part in doing that kind of work with the farm system, then that would be amazing. Obviously, it's not a done deal yet. That's just something they've talked about. But yeah, man, it's the one area the Mets have lacked on. Is player development. Even when they have players that are supposed to like have a shot to develop into something, they tend not to. So getting better guys and that can evaluate these guys and evaluate these players and get them to the level where we need them to be would be amazing. Yeah.
Is that
track record
my
says
question?
Go ahead and hire him.
Yeah, my question is that for these player development guys, the guy that you just named, and I'm not sure if you know this or not, is he in charge? He's not like in the scouting department. He's actually going to be hands on with these guys at the minor league level to actually develop their talent and their skill set. He's not in charge of like bringing them in the house, like in terms of the draft, right? He's actually in charge of like once they already got the career started.
I think they all work together. I mean, if you look at his history, he was assistant scouting director with the Cardinals. He was a quantitative analyst, international scouting coordinator, and assistant GM with Oakland. And now he's the vice president of scouting with the Cubs. So he has a scouting background. He has a master's into statistics from Harvard. So he's a stat guy. A stat guy with scouting background. So it's a good combination there. Yeah, it's him and whoever's in charge of like. There's an actual person in charge of like the drafting and all that. I forget what the actual term or job title is. I think we just lost ours, to be honest. So we would be hiring that person too as well. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. The Mets obviously have a hole at GM. We have holes at we fired all those people. What was it, like 7 or 8 people, like right before the season ended? If you
Mhm,
remember that, where
mhm.
they kind of clean house, and we all kind of suspected that it was because Stearns was coming in and wanted to bring in his own guys. So um, I'm sure that's what he's working on behind the scenes. Whatever's going on now, I'm sure he's busy. I'm sure he's working.
Yeah.
It's just we're not hearing. I mean, we're hearing little itsy bitsy pieces of stuff, but I don't know, man. We at this point we don't have a manager, we don't have a GM. We're kind of in no man's land, but I expect sooner than later we're gonna start seeing things fall into place.
Yeah, I agree. And I think here, Tom is just expressing our collective thoughts here in terms of our scouting needing fresh eyes. They haven't got it right in a few years, for as long as I can remember, to be honest with you. I mean, I understand we have a great farm system now, but I mean, just the development of these guys. You look at Beatty, for example, like prime guy that probably falls into that category.
Yeah, this
Um,
is the problem. We draft these guys and they're supposed to be like stars, but for whatever reason, when they get here, they come up short and
yeah,
something's missing. So we've seen it with Beatty, the Entos. We kind of seen it with too, even though he had a kind of better end to the year. Alvarez had a pretty good year, but even he had his ups and downs.
yeah,
Mauricio isn't a sure thing. Like, I mean, it's hard to get sure things, like obviously, but we strike out more than we hit home runs with these guys. So
yeah.
we need to flip that script a little bit. We need to start hitting on some of these more than just developing failures or guys that end up
I
better somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll see what happens with those young players that you just mentioned in terms of this offseason because like I said, like, probably outside of Alvarez, really is the only guy that we have that I would say is probably safe on this roster moving forward in terms of those 4 that we saw last year. Everybody else, Vientos, Beatty, Mauricio, no matter what your opinions on them are, they are expendable, so, and like you said, you're projecting, and so am I, a heavy trade season this offseason for the New York Mets because of the pieces that they have to part with. So we'll see what happens with those guys. Mets prospects have been overhyped for years, unfortunately. I agree. Hopefully, we have better luck on this batch here moving forward with Luis Angel, with Gilbert. I know Clifford struggled ever since he came over from the Astros organization, but hopefully he turns it around. I mean, there's a lot to choose from Parada, so we'll see about this next batch here. Hopefully that the Mets can
Jet
make do
Williams,
something here.
probably the best one out of all of them.
Jay Williams as well. Yeah, he had a tremendous season. So we'll see what happens. We'll monitor their statuses moving forward in 2024. Last thoughts. I know this is a Interstate Mets report, but let's talk about World Series. My main question for you in terms of analyzing this World Series, I don't think I have plans on watching every single inning of every single game. Does it take away? Like, are you in the bucket of the World Series not having bigger market teams taking away from the enjoyment, or are you glad to see these 2 teams who haven't been successful as of recent get back in it?
I mean, it depends on how you look at it. The super diehard fan is probably gonna watch no matter what. I don't know
Yeah,
if they'll watch all of it. I mean, I'm a pretty diehard baseball fan, and I've been in and out of the postseason. Like I've watched a good bit, but
yeah,
I haven't been like it's just hard when your team is not in it and you're not super invested into any of these teams. I
mhm,
mean, yeah, there's liking baseball, but it's too some of it just gets old. Like you're just like, all right, let's get this over with. Like, yeah, obviously I was tuned into the Philly series just because I wanted them to lose. So I was invested in that. Um, super happy that they're gone. And to me, it's kind of just a stress relief. Like I don't have to worry about. Yeah, I know some Mets fans don't want to see Scherzer win. They don't want to see DeGrom win. I don't necessarily care. Scherzer's already won. DeGrom, I mean, he hasn't even pitched. I guess he'll get a ring regardless if they do win, but it's whatever. Like I really that doesn't bother me. Once
yeah,
you're off my team, I really don't care that much about you. Um, so yeah, I'm just happy. As long as the Phillies, Braves, Yankees weren't, obviously the Yankees didn't make it, but you know what I mean. As long as those 3 teams are not winning, I'm good to go. I hope, for the sake of just, I don't know. It's hard because the Rangers have never won a World Series. The Diamondbacks have, but the Diamondbacks are that scrappy, like, underdog team that really nobody expected to win. So I kind of want to root for the Diamondbacks. They have a lot of fun guys on that team: Carroll, Marte, Zach Gallen, that rookie pitcher that's been phenomenal. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's something weird, but um, you're muted or your microphone's doing some weird stuff. Now you're on mute again. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, that rookie guy with the F name, I think.
Yeah, PF. It's PF, I think. It's like,
Yeah, PF. That's what it is. I'm guessing it's a silent P. But yeah, he's been awesome. But yeah, it doesn't really have, to M Easy's point, it doesn't really have a lot of juice. It is two small market teams. For those teams, it's cool because they'll get eyeballs on them that nobody would ever really watch either of these teams otherwise. But MLB is probably cringing right now. Let's be honest. Rob Manfred is probably thinking the ratings to this thing are gonna suck, and he's probably not wrong.
I was gonna say, like, I probably don't have any intention on. I'm gonna watch a little bit, but like you said, like, I'm a diehard baseball fan too. But like, once the Mets are out of it, like, I'm rooting for the NL East teams to lose. Those are the games that I'm watching. We're rooting for them to lose, and after that, if none of them make it to the World Series, I ain't watching because, like, I have no interest. It's great to see what the Diamondbacks did this season, and it's a tale of two sort of different aspects of how you approach the offseason. We know the Rangers have invested. We know they've invested, money and tons of it. I mean, they were like what, top 7 in payroll, if not top 5, or I forgot what the actual number was, but they're up there. And then you got the Diamondbacks. Is a total team of fate, right? And these young guys just having that heart and I know it sounds corny what Tommy Pham said, but I truly believe it to be accurate. Like there's no way that team should have even sniffed you know, the NLCS, let alone the World Series. So,
But
100
they're that hungry, man.
Diamondbacks. Yeah, exactly. So, I'm rooting for the Diamondbacks. Hopefully they can get it. I hear the point on the Rangers, not winning a World Series just yet. Understand that, but like to be honest with you, I don't really care if the NL team wins it. Like it doesn't matter. We have nothing against the Diamondbacks. I got nothing against the Diamondbacks, so I'd like to see those young guys get a chip.
Another reason I
End of the
want
day.
the Diamondbacks to win, because
What was it?
Chris Russo talked all that smack and then said he was going to retire, and basically he obviously wasn't actually going to retire, but they kind of threw that in his face, and I just want them to keep doing it. Like I
What did he
want him
say? I
to.
didn't see that.
He said before the series was over, I think when Philly made it 3-2, I think. Yeah, he said
It
there
was
was
3-2.
no way that the Diamondbacks would ever win 2 games in Philadelphia. And he said if they won game 7, he was going to retire from his radio show. Well, they won game 7 and he didn't retire. And I just want to see him get roasted for the rest of the World Series. So if the Diamondbacks win, it would be even more reason for him to get people
Listen,
piled.
I'd be happy not to see him on MLB Network anymore. I just can't do it sometimes, man. I mean, I respect the energy, but I just can't do it sometimes.
Once upon a time, that dude was the man. Him and Francesa had a great show. I used to listen to it almost every day back when sports radio wasn't total crap.
Yeah.
But he's out of touch with baseball and sports in general. He's just an old man yelling at clouds. Like he's got this old school mentality. He doesn't adapt to anything new. Like I can't stand guys like that. It's like, bro, we're in 2023. You're still talking about the 1950s Brooklyn Dodgers or whatever. Like you just Just stop.
I forgot what he said about like Mickey Mantle being his like all-time best baseball player or whatever. It's just like, bro, like come on, give it up. This is a funny comment from MEZ. I will always have resentment towards Seawold because of that one Nationals game that he couldn't get 3 outs to, and they came back from like 5 or 6 runs down in the ninth that I was in attendance for, and Edwin Diaz ended up getting that blown save because Seawold couldn't do a job. So Seawold, I hope that your team wins, but I hope you blow all your saves in the meantime. And I don't know if that's possible, but I hope they yank you from that closer role. So, but yeah, I think the collective comment section says they want the D-backs to win. Hart wants D-backs, but Head says Rangers will win 5. Ooh, I do like the D-backs as old school unis. So shout out Aaron for that point. That
It'll
is a
be
great
very
comment.
cool if they wore those at least one of
Yeah,
the games.
yeah. If the Mets sign an expensive DH this season, it will symbolize their strategic choice for the Mets' future direction. Whether they prioritize winning at all costs or building from within the rookies. Yeah, no, I agree. That's a great point. I mean, the Mets can do either they can go either of those routes, to be honest with you, to fill out that DH role. The verdict is still going to be out on Pete Alonso and what his future holds. I think we're all expecting him to be the Mets' opening day first baseman per David Stearns' press conference, but stranger things have happened, and we don't know what goes on behind the scenes there in terms of negotiations, but I completely agree. I think there is at least one solidified DH at the very minimum coming up with the batch of prospects that we have coming up. So we'll see how the Mets play that. What's sad about the state of baseball is that these debate shows don't even mention baseball. MEZ, I agree with you. I mean, especially when you talk about like Stephen A. Smith, who's just way out of way out of touch with anything related to baseball. I forgot that one comment that he went under fire for about it was related to baseball. It's just like you can tell he has no idea what he's talking about. Something about the Yankees or whatever. Um, we got a Chris Russo supporter in here. I respect your opinion, aim easy, but that's not my guy. I ain't claiming him. So deep. Oh, we got Jane Y saying D-backs from 6 would be my guess, man. This has like a Mets Royals 2015 type vibes where like the Royals obviously were a juggernaut that year, but the Mets were the underdogs. And like I agree. I think my head says Rangers, but I really want like that underdog team to come in there because the Mets should have been in the World Series in 2015. Let's be real. So that's the comparison that I make in terms of the Mets. So closing thoughts, man. That's all I got. Nelson, what you got? Closing thoughts. I'll run through the banners here. Tell everybody where they can find you. Everybody knows where to find us, but just in case, let me hear your final statements.
Yeah, I mean, I just want the World Series to end as soon as possible.
Yeah,
I just need this to be over. So regardless, whoever wins game 1 needs to just win the rest of the games and let's finish it up. I do want the D-backs to win. My heart says D-backs in 7. My head says somehow the Rangers are gonna win this though, but
Yep.
that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna say D-backs in 7. That's what I'm sticking with. Yeah, and if you could follow me on X, I'd appreciate it. If you have a what do you call it, account there, follow me at Amish Country Met on X. I've been doing a lot more content there. I finally got enough impressions to where I'm monetized for whatever that was worth. So I'm like putting some effort in the X over there. Also, obviously the YouTube. I'm gonna be doing more on the YouTube as soon as the off season gets going. So follow me or subscribe to me here if you haven't already at Amish Country Mets fan. Excuse me. I'll let you do your own little plugs and follow us on X as well at Interstate Mets. That's the show X handle. I want to call it Twitter. It just feels right to call it Twitter. Saying X just feels stupid, but it is what it is. Elon's gonna do what Elon's gonna do. But yeah, man, it was good talking to you again. Good talking some Mets, even though there isn't a lot to talk about. But yeah, we'll be back next week at some point, and hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, the World Series is a little exciting at least, but we'll see what happens.
I agree. Let's go Mets, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just want to reiterate to everybody watching, thank you guys for watching even in the slow times. I know we don't have much to talk about. There are little developments here and there, but as soon as the hot stove season comes around, we're going to be doing impromptu live. So make sure you hit the notifications, turn the notifications on. When the hot stove commences, we'll be on here breaking news. We'll get hype, all that good stuff. So make sure you rock it with us. I appreciate everyone in the comment section. Shout out you all for showing out. You know where to find me at the end of the day. On X and Instagram at CPNY Sports. My YouTube is as follows, at CPNY Sports all around. Doing a lot of Knicks, Rangers, Giants content right now just because that's what the season is, but I promise I will get more into Mets talk when the offseason is in full swing. Maybe Mets make a couple hires, and we'll be definitely doing more stuff here too. So appreciate you, Tom.
I just want to shout out my guy Tom real quick. I try to keep you in mind with the UK friendly. I know it's a little later out there. That was my first guest on my little podcast I was doing for a little bit. I got away from that, but maybe we'll bring it back next year. And we'll see how things shake out.
For sure. Yeah, as always, guys, I appreciate you all. We appreciate you all. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe, tell your friends, your family, if they're Mets fans, if they're MLB fans in general. Tell them to subscribe, watch the Interstate Mets Report. Promise we'll be doing more content. We'll have more news coming out. Until then, appreciate all the regulars, Stevie, M-Easy, J and Y, Tom, all you guys, man. If I'm missing Yuki, Aaron, I'm just gonna run down the list because y'all are awesome, man.
Ever-changing name.
Yeah. I think that's
Yuki
Stevie's always here. Yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you guys for dropping. You guys make this experience a lot better. Just dropping these comments, having discussion. We don't want this to be just all about us. We want to hear your thoughts and opinions and have a discussion while we're doing this in front of the camera. So appreciate y'all, you guys. We'll be back soon. Maybe not both times next week. Maybe not Tuesday and Friday, but maybe just Friday. We'll see what happens. We'll see what Nelson and I discuss. But once we get in the regular flow of things, we'll be back on Tuesdays and Fridays with more news for you all. So other than that, let's go Mets. We'll see how the World Series is going to shake out. But more exciting news to come. Keep rocking with us. Appreciate it. Let's go Mets. Catch y'all the next time.
Peace.
Thank you for watching the Interstate Mets Report. Streaming Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to @Amish Country